All right. Let's go ahead and send this out a little bit. All right, we can start to get some people in here. Cool. All right, just finish sharing this out. There we go. All right. Good evening. So it's going to be a little different tonight. A little bit different. And the fact of I have something that's pre-recorded, right? And we're going to go ahead and run that tonight. However, it's something new. It's something different. It's not a re-airing of something. We've done that before. It's something that's new that we recorded and I took some time, edited, sat with, and I wanted to air it over the weekend at the IOEVA show. Kind of had it in mind as something special to hold and air then to display oldies in maybe a different light than people are used to seeing them. Definitely a different way than people are used to talking about them. I think everybody's really gonna enjoy it. This video is gonna feature James Stevenson, and he does weight pull. He's a multi-time champion weight pull with his dog Kodiak. He's been doing it for a while. He's kind of a big figure in that community. He hosts events. He does all this, and like I said, the video is really, really cool, really, really awesome. And without further ado, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and air the video. Like I said, I'm gonna be watching it too. I haven't really watched it since I edited it all together, but it's awesome. Like I said, this is the second episode of Oldies Activities. I aired Flyball over I think Tuesday after the show. I aired it, and this one's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. Once again, I'll be watching too, so in the comments and all that stuff. So if you guys have something to say, comment, something to add, go ahead and put it, and I'll see it. And without any further ado, once again, this is Oldies Activities. This is weight pull with James Stevenson. Okay, here we go. This is episode 2 of Oldies Activities, Whole House. This is Man of the Hour, Mr. James Stevenson.
Good morning.
Today, morning, morning. Today we're gonna talk about weight pulling. I want to start at the beginning of how you got into it and what made you do it with an Old English Bulldog.
So before Bulldogs, I had a couple of different types of working dogs. I've had a few German Shepherds. I've had several different breeds of hunting dogs and enjoyed them doing what they do. But I had actually seen an oldie at my vet 20 something years ago, and I was really enamored with the dog. And I had actually seen some standard English bulldogs whenever I was a kid that had drive, but the dogs could actually like work themselves to death, chasing a
Mm,
ball or something. So I
yeah,
was enamored with the attitude, but obviously the physical limitations, with a standard bulldog were not very desirable to me. And especially like coming from German Shepherds, Labradors, hounds, that could run. So then I was in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and I was at the vet and I saw my first evolution bulldog in person. And
20 years ago, huh?
yeah, probably, matter of fact, 20 years on the dot, I would say. Uh, I was working in Hot Springs and Brian Miller lived there at the time. And I was waiting on the vet to open. I got off third shift, and this lady was also waiting on the vet to open. And she gets out of her car, and we're kind of sitting outside. It's really nice. And she had this dog that was so huge compared to what I was used to. And he was just a
Yeah, yeah.
super happy, wiggly dude. And I talked to her about it. And I left there after my vet appointment and went to the library and looked up Old English Bulldogs.
Got you.
Well, I ended up stumbling on Evolution Bulldog's website, which is what that dog was. And I looked at dozens of other websites and I started looking at IOEBA because it was one of the only sites up at the time for those. And not that many breeders had sites. But
Okay.
Brian Miller had a few videos of static uh, doing bite work and pulling a wheeled cart. And I was like, I was traveling for work at the time, but I said, man, as soon as I settle down, I'm getting one of those. And a couple of years later, it happened for me. I settled down and was at the same job for a little bit and wasn't traveling near as much. And I contacted him, and he was in the process of moving to Kansas. But I went up and got my first dog from him, Samson.
Mm,
And when that dog was about 9 months old, he texted me and he said, "Hey, I'm doing a deal." Because I'd been sending him pictures of the dog and talking to him, and I told him I wanted to do work and stuff with it. And he texted me and said, "We're hosting an event in Topeka, Kansas called Working Dog Weekend. You should come check it out." So I go up there. They actually had confirmation rings for oldies, presses, and shorty bulls. So there's dogs there for show stuff. It was in like kind of a rodeo arena type deal. But they did a wheeled weight pull in the sand, and they didn't have tons of harnesses, and there wasn't like a lot of real experienced people there for weight pull, but they're playing around with it, uh no organization or anything, just doing it for fun. And
for the
then
love
they
of the
did
game.
they did
Except for
like a hardest hitting competition, like bite work stuff. And then the next day we did deal called Real Dog Trial, which was an obstacle course you run with the dog, and there's three protection stages in this obstacle course. So you run like a mile and a half obstacle course with the dog, and the bad guy jumps out at you in three places. So we did all kinds of work and stuff for the weekend, and I was hooked. I went home and found somebody that I could do bite work training with, and I contacted a harness maker and had weight pull and protection harnesses made for my dog the following week. and I found someone in Oklahoma City that was a weight puller, and I started in all of that as soon as I came home from that trip.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. That's awesome. Said 20 years ago, huh? And Brian, I didn't know Brian Miller was from Arkansas
Brian is from
or was in
Oklahoma, but
Arkansas.
yeah, I think maybe he lived there for 5 years. I only lived there for about a year. I was a contractor out there, but I
Yeah.
think he lived there 5 or 6 years, and then he lives way north Kansas, little tiny town north of Topeka.
Arkansas, stand up. I never knew Arkansas was cracking like that before I moved here. Actually,
Yeah.
now I'm learning more and more people like have ties here, and yeah, it's a trip.
Yeah, at one time there was a lot of bulldog breeders in Arkansas.
Yeah, wait,
I don't know if they
yeah.
still are or not.
I think the laws here make it not easy, but you can do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, once you're out of the city, like in the city here, you can have 4 dogs. Once you
Right.
get out of city limits, there's no leash laws, there's no nothing, which is a pain in the neck. I can't stand it, but it makes what we do. You can do it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. Let's see. Got a little video here. So talk to me a little bit more about weight pool, how it's set up, what the things these dogs are capable of. Kind of blows my mind.
So weight pull, if you've never done it at all, you're pulling against your own body weight. So first off, it's classes in 10-pound increments. So 0 to 9 pounds, 10 to 19, so on and so forth. Uh, Depending on the organization, it may be at a certain weight and up would be unlimited. Like ADBA is there's no huge dogs registered there. So I think it's 80 pounds and up or 89 pounds and up is unlimited. In UPF, which is what I pull with, it's 120 and up is unlimited. But there's not
Mm.
tons of huge dogs, so there's no point in having 10-pound increments, over 120. And you're still
What's the biggest
pulling
dog you've seen out there?
one in the 160s,
What was it?
Mastiff.
Wrestler or something like that?
So I've seen, I think they call it an XXL bully that was in the 160s. And I've seen presses up there in the 160s. Travis Torres has some presses that are 150 and up. I've seen a few of his dogs that big. He has a really, really nice female that's in the 110 that's great. But he just came to my show here in Oklahoma City a few weeks ago with a dog named Mag. He either weighed 151 or 161. I'd have to look at the paperwork, but he's huge. And, I've seen some Rottweilers in the 120s. There's a handful of different types
That's a big
of dogs.
Rottweiler.
Yes. And there was a guy that came from Montana a couple of years ago with I think it was an English Mastiff he was over 150 too, I believe. He was huge. And then this year, there's a guy with a boar bull supposed to come to our nationals that's 160.
Okay, so what's the smallest dog you've seen?
7. There's
7?
a few people. Yes, 7. There's
I like it.
don't get me wrong. There's not 20 dogs in that in the 10-pound class, but
Right.
there's usually a couple. And it's really funny. There was a guy in Houston or Houston area anyway that he pulled Borbles, but his wife had a little house dog and he trained that dog. And I know a couple of years in a row he had the smallest and the largest dog present out of 80 dogs.
That's awesome.
So
That's awesome.
it's for anyone. My show that I host at the Oklahoma City Fairgrounds, They used to call it Canine Olympics because there's every type of sport there imaginable. So there is every type of dog there imaginable. I
Yeah.
there's I think 8 different sports present for that weekend. So we have people come and try it of any breed that you can imagine. And you would be really surprised sometimes the dogs that they're obviously trainable because these people are doing multiple sports with them. So some dogs just take to it better than you would think. Because you're not just going to
Yeah.
throw a harness on your dog and be competitive. It's so
Yeah.
unlikely. It's not impossible. It it is out there. It's very unlikely. But I have
Yeah.
seen dogs that you would never expect do the best out of the novice dogs. And a crazy example a couple years ago was a corgi. And, you know, that dog really pulled some weight and she pulled all 3 pulls for the weekend, but it was insane how well that dog did.
What kind of weight we talking about?
I I would have to go back and look at the paperwork, but I want to say like 1,700 pounds for a 20 something pound dog.
Yeah.
And it
That's
actually
crazy.
used its nose. And this lady had 2 of them. One of them did not care for it very much. It pulled some, but not very much. But the one that was doing good would stick its nose on the carpet and help drag it forward.
Like a
And
fifth
that
foot,
little
huh?
dog, yes, and that little dog, yeah, like a paddle.
Yeah.
He really worked his little fuzzy butt off, and it was hilarious. And we had a great time watching it.
That's awesome.
But
I
yeah,
got a
I've seen
dachshund
some,
that's
yeah,
ripped up and super drivey, and
yeah.
I'd be curious what he'd do stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because
This year we had a couple of dachshunds do it, and one of them does pretty good. That lady is local and she bought her own harness and is interested in trying. And she does a few things with that dog.
yeah,
But yeah, it's not limited. Now, if you, let's say that you're a standard EB guy, could you train your dog to do fly ball or agility or something like that? Sure, you can. Are you going to be massively successful? No.
no,
But
right,
sport isn't the whole dog's life.
right,
So if you got the dog that's the breed that you like, personality and look and stuff like that, and you could still do a sport and enjoy it, you know, you want to
absolutely,
win, but winning isn't everything. And
yeah,
I can tell you, I've been doing this for a pretty good while. One of the happiest years I ever was leaving nationals, I took 3 dogs. I didn't place with any of them, but my dogs gave me one, all 3 of them gave me 100%, and I showed up ready. And we finished in the middle of the pack with 2 of the dogs, and then one of them at the bottom. But all 3 of them gave me 100%, and I drove off happier than I ever had at that time. Because
awesome.
sometimes, you can train, and you show up and they just get spooked or they just don't give you 100% that day, and that can be very frustrating. But
Yeah,
just going to it's not always about winning. I have made some of the best friends I've ever had doing this, doing dog sports for sure.
yeah,
And we get together because we're friends and there's great love there, but we met each other doing dog stuff.
that's awesome. So it has like a little bit of a like track and field where a lot of times they're racing against themselves. They're trying to do better than they
Yes.
did last time.
Well, and
And
you
yeah,
are, because this is a percentage thing. So if me and you both have dogs in the 80-pound class, you are pulling against each other. But let's say my dog is 80 pounds flat, and your dog
mine's
is
89.
83 pounds. You have to cover the
Mm-hmm.
3 pounds. So if it's small weight increases, then you would have to cover maybe 2. If it's big weight increase, you have to cover at least 1, right? Now, for in UPF, there's most weight pulled. So let's say you have an 88-pound dog. you're probably not going to cover the 8 pounds to my
And
80-pound dog.
anybody doesn't understand sports betting, that's covering the spread right there. That's what that is.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So maybe you can't cover the spread, right? But if you got
Yeah.
an 88-pound dog and I got an 8-pound dog, if we're just like looking at a show ring, there's difference, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that's a real difference. Your dog is
And when
bigger
it's
than my
8 pounds of
dog.
muscle, yeah. Yeah.
You should be able to cover me, but maybe you
Yeah.
can't. So there's most weight pulled, so that would be the maximum weight for the class, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then first, second, third is based on the percentage.
Yeah.
So now let's say both of us are 80 pounds and we go out on the same weight. We both pull 8,000 pounds for 100 times the dog's body weight. So we both hit a milestone, like a benchmark. Now we add 210 pounds and neither of us make it. It goes back to the fastest time.
So that makes it possible for that 1,700-pound corgi pool to win.
Yeah, and there's mechanical advantage. Well, so that dog would win its class,
Yeah.
probably regardless because there's only going to be a couple of dogs in the
Right.
teams.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that dog is only pulling against its 9-pound or 10-pound weight
Okay.
class.
I got
And
you.
then there's divisions too, and they do divisional body pound and most weight pulled for the division also.
All right. And so your current dogs, your boy Kodiak, he's evolution or he's your production or
That's Evolution Bulldog. Yeah.
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 But you do breed as well, right? A little bit.
I don't. I mean, I have bred Kodiak some, but I don't have any females, and really
Yeah.
all the breeding I was doing was set up through Evolution Bulldogs.
I got you. Your boy's a
And
monster though.
he is a monster.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
I
not
like him. I
a
like him a lot.
no magic tape measure, magic scale. That's on a hanging scale, in 50 different places, 125-pound dog with a 27-inch head. You can't buy a collar for that dog at Tractor Supply.
I like it. I like it a lot, man. I like. Look, before I got into oldies, the last dog I had was Connie Corso. Wasn't the
Yeah,
best bred dog, whatever like that. I got him from a coworker that had a litter and got tired of feeding them. Said, "Come get you one." So I went and got me one. But
yeah,
I've always liked big dogs. Um, I don't trust the whole. I don't trust the whole world to put big dogs in their hands, but I love big dogs. You know what I mean?
I totally agree
And
with that. And this is a dog that's not for everyone.
yeah, yeah. Even that. I mean, once you start getting into 80, 90 pounds, definitely 100 pounds. Like that's a dog. You gotta have control. You gotta know what you're doing, or else you got a problem on your hands. You know.
Yeah,
So,
it is an
well,
animal for sure, and not all oldies, if you had a big show and you had 100 oldies there, there's dogs in there that would run away from someone yelling at you. And then there's dogs in there that might stand in between you and an intruder or an assault or
yeah.
something like
Oh yeah.
that. And then there's dogs that
Yeah.
would run themselves to death to get that guy.
Yeah.
And
And
when you
size is
start
not the
talking about a
indicator.
dog, no, size isn't the indicator, but a 60 or 70-pound dog can be managed by someone that knows
Most
what they're
people.
doing. Right. I'm a big man, and I'm telling you, two big men could not control this dog if he didn't want to be. It's unreal how strong and capable a dog like this
Mm,
is. It's not for
yeah.
everyone.
Yeah. How strong? How strong? How capable is he?
I'm
What's
telling
his
you, I don't think. Go ahead.
what's his max? What how much has he pulled or
I would have to go back and look at some paperwork. I know he's pulled over 10,000 a couple of times, but that's a
jeez.
relative thing, right? So I own my own weight pull track, but I have moved it around over 10 times. So I've set it up in my backyard where he could pull 5,500 pounds. And then I have set it up laser flat where we ran out of weight around 11. You know, like if you know anything about drag racing, let's say you got a 12-second car. If you take it to 10 tracks, it ain't 12 seconds everywhere on every day.
Right.
And that weight pull
Everything's
thing
different.
is the same thing. We could have a show for Saturday and Sunday at my house, and the weather could change 10 or 15 degrees or the humidity. And one day we'll pull 5,000 pounds, the next day we'll pull eight. Or maybe it cools off and we pull eight the first day, and the second day we pull 4,500. So you have to watch what the smaller dogs are doing. You can't just say, well, yesterday I know I pulled 8,500 with my 80-pound dog, so I'm not coming in until 7,000. You could put your dog up
Mm,
there and it no pull because you waited too long. You got to
yeah.
watch the dogs. They're like two classes under you. And when they start slowing down, you need to put your dog in to warm up. And they won't all do it. You can
Yeah.
train with a leash. And sometimes the dog will figure out that whenever you get to the competition that you unhook them and you don't touch them again. And sometimes they'll just not do it. You
Yeah.
know, and I've seen a
Yeah.
few dogs that would drag weight. You know, you use a sled or chains and weights in the yard, and I've seen dogs that love doing that, but then whenever you hook them up to rails, they will never put forth the same effort. You know, I've seen dogs that their
Yeah.
tongue was dragging the ground, dragging weight in the yard, no leash, you just hook them up and they take off. And then you take that same dog and hook them up to rails, and they will not put forth half that effort. It's just sometimes they like one aspect of it and then they don't the others. Kodiak
Yeah.
doesn't ever get in a huge hurry taking off, but he puts forth a great effort. I mean, this is a multi-time national champion. You know, he is a great dog.
Yeah. All right, let's try this one. Let's see if I should.
Bitch, huh? You ready? Ready?
Yeah.
Ready, Danger? Let's go. Good girl, Danger. Work.
So that takeoff's a lot different than Kodiak's, and this is
Yeah.
Let's go.
Kodiak's
Girl, Danger.
mom's litter mate sister. Well,
Okay.
most people will never see a bulldog with heart like this.
She
She
ain't
falls
quitting.
down, she gets right back up. Like you can see, it's
Mm-hmm.
barely moving, and she's just digging. You could find
Yeah.
500 Old English Bulldogs and probably not
Ooh,
find one with heart like that.
she
That
did
dog
that.
had no quit in her.
That's impressive right there.
That's a 55-pound dog that just pulled. That's 4 rows of bricks times 840 each.
32, probably 33, 3,400 pounds.
Yeah, the cart's 200, so yeah, it's like 36.
Yeah. That's impressive.
Yeah, she was legit. And in that video, I had gone and got that dog out of the kennel at Evolution Bulldogs and brought her home, and I trained that dog for 90 days, and she did that. She'd never been in a harness. She actually had never been off his property.
Mm.
The dog was
Okay,
legit.
so let's say somebody that's interested in this, they see it, they like it, they think they have the dog for it, or the puppy for it. How do they get started? What's the first thing you do?
Especially with a puppy, the first thing I'm going to do is find a harness. And for a puppy or something really light, you don't even have to have a competition harness. You could use a walking harness. But
Okay.
the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get, if it's a little puppy, you can use a regular water bottle and you get you a handful of gravel and put in there. And you can use a second leash and you just tie it behind that dog and you just go for a walk. You know, you're talking about an 8-pound puppy. You can put
Yeah.
4 ounces of gravel in a water bottle or a
They'll
2
feel it.
liter or a milk jug, and you're just going to go for the walk in your yard or at the park just like you normally would. But that bottle is back there bouncing around making noise. So
Yeah.
there's almost no tension on there because you're talking about this weighs less than a pound and it's just bouncing around, rattling and stuff. Because carts, a wheeled cart doesn't make a ton of noise, but a rail system, especially when there's not much weight on it, it's loud.
Yeah.
It's that wheel's metal on metal. And
Right.
when there's not a lot of bricks on there, the cart is usually kind of rattly and noisy like a train. The heavier it gets and the slower it gets quieter. But when your dog first starts pulling on the track, it's got to be used to loud noises. So I always start off with just a water bottle with some rocks in it. And then a lot of times I'll add a little small cowbell. Tractor Supply, they have little like 4-inch cowbells for lambs and sheep and stuff. This
It's
is
kind of what you're
Kodiak
talking
when he,
about.
yep, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I think there's 2 or 3 window weights back there, and they're rattling and clanking against each other, and I believe there's cowbell on there, but that's Kodiak when he's about 4 months old.
I'm gonna put this one more time. Tell he's not struggling. It's not much weight at all. Just
Nope. Yeah, I mean, he's going almost at a jog.
yeah. Okay.
And
And I see what you're saying. You could do that with just a regular walking harness, easily.
yes, at this point, you don't have to have a competition harness. Now, when you start getting up there like half the dog's body weight or something like that, so at that point, I would have guessed he weighed about 30. At 4 months old, I would have half the dog's body weight or something, and we'd be doing that a couple times a week and go for maybe 3/8 to half a mile. My yard is like a little over 100 yards long, and we just get out there and go up and down the ditch a few times, 4 times
laps.
back and forth or something. Yep. It's no different than a regular walk, right? And we keep that real fun. I usually take a toy out there, play with the toy for a minute, we put the harness on, play with the toy, and we just go for a walk. Praise, happy, fun the whole time. But you see there, I didn't even have a leash on him. Most of the dogs that I have trained from, all the dogs I've trained from a puppy, when you're training from a puppy, it would be just like if you want to train a horse for barrel racing, you're not just going to let them get to 2 years old and then throw a saddle and jump on there. When that thing is a colt, you're going to throw a saddle blanket on it and start leading it around. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to praise it up, talk to it, do all the comfort things while you're putting a little pressure on it because it doesn't want that bit in its mouth and it doesn't want that saddle on it. You can't walk up to a wild horse and just jump on it and expect to do like you see horses do. That was
Not without the
slowly,
right percentage of Navajo in you.
yeah. But those things were slowly imprinted, right? Well,
Yeah.
taking
Right.
that puppy out there and putting that harness on it, it's not we're pulling a lot of weight right away. What we're doing is we're
Right.
just showing them what the job is, right? And then you just slowly build up as the dog gets older and matures.
Yeah. Okay.
If you
So
do it right and you keep it fun, most of that drag work is done off leash. Uh, Several times I've had an adult dog that I could be dragging, and I'll have, whenever I've had a puppy, the puppy's just following along right with us. Nobody's on a leash. Now, when we go to the rails, you got dogs on a leash 90% of the time. Every once in a while, you see a dog that just takes right to it. And that dog Danger, the little red one that you just saw, I never pulled her on a leash. She just, as soon as there was tension on
you
that
could see the
harness,
want to.
yeah, as soon as there was tension on the harness, she was just going to pull as hard as she could, as long as she could. And she'd just burn
Yeah,
her
you can
feet
see
up. She would
you can
never
see the
quit.
want to.
Yeah. But I mean, you could see 200 weight pull dogs, and only a couple of them would just have heart and no quit like that. That's
Yeah.
abnormal.
Yeah. So I have to say the dumb thing. I have to ask the dumb question as part of my job here. What about if I train my dog to pull 10,000 pounds is going to drag me down the street.
Absolutely not. Uh, so the first thing about weight pull is half of that is not strength. I could not put Kodiak in a harness for 6 months and take him to a show and him do pretty good. This type of dog is the strength is just there. If you took a power lifter and he didn't compete or train for 6 months, that's still a big, strong guy. Because we're not talking about a marathon runner. If a marathon runner didn't prepare for 6 months, he's probably not going to be able to go out there and do what he used to do. A big, heavy muscle dog, you train some strength, but most of what you're getting is just conditioning so they can actually do 5 or 6 rounds, 5 minutes apart, right? Most of that strength is just sitting there naturally. All the training is in conditioning and just trying to coach them to put in that much effort, showing them that they can.
Yeah.
And not all dogs are the same way. Right now, I'm training a little pit bull. I don't think that they are just sitting there with quite as much natural strength, but those dogs will try really
They
hard.
switch on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you could
Boy, they switch
probably,
on.
right. You could go get you a pit bull out of pound and train it for just a few weeks and go, and you wouldn't, the dogs in your class wouldn't pull twice as much as you.
Yeah.
You'd be in there with the pack. I'm not saying you could be competitive just in a few weeks, but it's wild how much they'll try as soon as they understand the job. And not all
Yeah.
bulldogs will do
I,
that. But
yeah.
not
I
everybody
know with
wants
bulldogs,
or needs a dog with that much drive either.
say that. Say that. Yes.
Yeah, not that dog Danger that was in that video, that little 55-pound bitch. That was a hard dog. Uh,
Yeah.
in those videos, there's a white dog with like a chocolate brindle, and he has like kind of pants on, and those are a little bit older videos. I think he's
Hmm.
been gone 4 years. That was a really hard dog. I did a lot of bite sports and stuff with that dog. That was a crazy protective, defensive animal. Not for everyone. Not at
Right.
all. I I
Yeah.
know a lot of people that are looking at oldies. What they want is an English bulldog that's healthier. And there's tons of breeders that do that, that just got couch potatoes and stuff.
Yeah.
That dog could
Will eat your
destroy
house
your.
to get it.
Yes, that dog had to sleep in a bare, empty plastic crate his entire life. He couldn't be trusted
Yeah.
around anything for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, he either had to be in a
Man.
crate or he had to be in a room with me. If you went and took a shower, you're going to come back and something would have been in 1,000 pieces in whatever room you left him in.
Yeah.
That dog
That's
was not just content to just sit around on the couch or a dog bed for 23 hours a day. That dog needed a
Yeah.
job. And whenever he had a job, then a lot of that stuff started, you know, being
Clicks.
mitigated. It was,
Yeah.
was way better. He had a job. He wasn't frustrated. He wasn't bored. He, had an outlet for his energy.
Yeah. So I got another question that's not really about oldies, but do people take the sled dogs out there, the big huskies and malamutes and stuff? Do they do that?
Yes, and so weight pull is regional, right? I think there's 5 organizations in the U.S. And we have people in Unified Pulling Federation that come from Washington, from the Northeast, come all over. Our national's always in the same place in Kansas. It's right in the center of the United States, north and south and east and west. So we have ours in the
Mm-hmm.
same place every year. But that means from Massachusetts, it's 18 hours. And it means from Oregon, it's,
Washington. Yeah.
yeah, just 20 hours or something. But it's in the same place every year. And it's in the center.
Yeah.
Because if we moved it to the West Coast one year or even Utah or something like that, there may be people from Tennessee that now it's 24 hours and they had a dog that was really competitive that year.
Yeah.
You know where it's going to be. Where a lot of
Yeah.
organizations, they move it around some. But what I'm getting at there is it's mostly regional. So let's say that
Yeah.
you live in Michigan for 5 years and you start pulling dogs, and then you move to Kansas. They pull IWPA, and you're going to host IWPA weight pull at your house in Kansas or Nebraska. The closest people that
Yeah.
pulled with that organization are 4 states away. They're probably not driving 4 states away
Yeah.
to show up for 3 dogs.
Yeah. Because
So
as
you're going to have to
interested as I
pull.
am in yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
would
if
love to
I'm,
see those dogs that were bred over hundreds of years for that type of work, what they do. That'd be crazy. It has to be.
and I would like to see that too, because you see some that are good, uh, Burmese mountain dogs, that IWPA, they
Yeah.
got a lot of those fuzzy dogs. And we have our nationals in October. And in Kansas, one year it could be sleeting and snowing and crappy outside, 40 degrees, 30s. And then the next year you can get
Yeah.
sunburn. It could be 89
Yeah.
degrees and sunny. So it just, you never know. But if you have it later, those
Yeah.
people that come from up north, they can have trouble traveling because there's snow on the ground.
Trout. Yeah.
Just from the 1st of October to the end of October, there can be really bad weather.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we don't have it any later for that reason. And then you don't have it any earlier than that because you don't want it to be too warm.
Yeah. I said there could be really bad weather, or it could still be 90 degrees outside.
That's
Toss
correct.
up.
Yep.
Yeah. But
Yeah, we've
down the
been
street.
hot where we had all the doors open with fans everywhere. And then we've had it where I know one year I had tarps on all my dog crates in the back of the truck because it was sleeting from like the state line all the way up there. And when I got there, there was like a half an inch of ice on all the dog boxes.
Mm, my guy down the street has a Malamute.
Yeah.
And I always knew they were big dogs, but until I seen that dog is humongous. And then
Yeah.
they're
And then with all the
fluffy
hair
and
on
furry
it,
too.
yeah,
Yeah. But
sure.
he's about, I would say like 27, 28 inches. Like, so
Yeah.
he's a big dog. He's a full
Yes.
framed, and it doesn't look skinny or nothing like that. So it's like, wow. I could imagine what those, like, I want to see, but I have to just imagine what they do. Like, it's got to be crazy
Yeah. And
because they
there
were
was a time
purpose built
that,
for it.
yeah, that I really, when I had my 80-pound dogs I was pulling, I really wanted to go up there and pull a couple of times with some of those guys just so I could see. Because at one of those IWPA, or I think there's 3PO or something like that, is up there too. There's a lot of those fluffy dogs that pull sled dogs and stuff. And but it's hard to tell because there's not, in those climates, there's not a bunch of pit bulls and American bulldogs pulling against them.
Right.
And there's not a lot of people that go back and forth from one organization to another because they're regional. So you're not seeing 10 people that I know go from Michigan to Kansas or Utah or Tennessee, where you could say, well, I know what this dog pulls and he beat or got beat by these other dogs in a different region. It's tough to say, but yes, I'd be curious to see too. And up north there, you see some big dogs pulling, some mastiffs and those Burmese mountain dogs. And, it looks like they pull a lot of weight. Uh, but I haven't really seen dogs from those organizations come out and pull, with UPF or APA.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. What have we not covered? You said UPF is the organization that you guys pull with.
Yes. Yeah,
Get your puppy, put a walking harness on him, and have him drag some stuff. Doesn't got to be heavy at all.
that's
Makes
correct.
noise and
Yep.
okay.
And then you just slowly add weight. You can use
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. If I didn't have anything and I was starting from scratch, I would just buy a sled like you see people use. You see footballers using off season where they just have the flat sled they put, weightlifting weights on. If I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have anything, I'd start
Yep.
with one of those. Those are big and flat, so it's actually really consistent if the ground changes. Because I started off using chains with window weights on there. You know, those big iron weights that came out of sash windows.
Yeah, the thing it
So
gets in a pothole or whatever, you got to pull it out.
yes, those get stuck on roots and holes in your yard and stuff like that. Those also will tear up your grass a little bit. So when I first started, I didn't have property and I was living in a little townhouse in the middle of Oklahoma City. So I had all this stuff, rusty chains and weights in 5-gallon buckets in the back of my truck, and I'd drive to a park and hook everything up and drag it around. Well, if it's wet outside and you're making a trench in this park, they're going to get mad at you and run you off. But if you have one of those
Yeah.
flat sleds, number one, it's more consistent. So whenever it's wet, soft, whatever, it's not going to change near as much because the area is bigger and that front end of that weight isn't digging in there. But it's also cleaner because you don't have this rusty stuff that you're having to pick up and haul around. And now I have my yard's like an acre and a half, and I just leave the weights and stuff piled against the tree, and we go out there and hook onto them, and it doesn't matter because I'm just grabbing the clip and hooking it onto the harness.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't take that much. You know, like a great dog on a sled would get up to like 2 times their body weight. So if you got an oldie that's to standard is like 70-pound or 80-pound male, the most weight you would need, sled and weight included, would be 200. And I mean, you would have a badass dog to pull 200 on a sled like that. You know, like most dogs like that, they're going to get up to like maybe 1.5 times their body weight. So
Yeah.
140 pounds would be quite a bit of weight to pull like a quarter to 3/8 of a mile.
Yeah, because friction's a mother.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because those same sleds, they don't have 3 poles on them for a 250-pound linebacker to pull, 500 pounds.
Yeah.
If you've ever messed around with one of those or tried one, 180 pounds on there for a 250-pound guy, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's weight. And
It is.
when those guys use them, they don't even go 3/8 of a mile. They probably go up and down the field once.
Yeah. 10, 20 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's all about just explosiveness more than endurance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah, and there's some of both in this too, in that second video you showed, you saw Danger slams into the weight.
Explosive.
Yes. So you want that. You want him to bump into it, but you also can't slingshot the dog. And I was training that dog, and you saw there was no cart handler there or anything. That was pushing the limits of what you can let your dog slam into the weight. My other dog, there's videos of the dog with the tail in there. You could let him go wherever you wanted. He would back up and really slam into it.
Yeah.
Every time, 5,000 times. But then Kodiak, you see, he takes his time to get going forward. And you can train with a leash to do a different way. You take a leash off, and the dog's going to do whatever they want. There's a couple of pictures and videos of a black female that looks small, but there's pictures of the black female with Kodiak, and then there's a couple videos of her pulling. That's a Kodiak daughter. That dog had a lot of heart and try.
That's Kodiak again.
That is Kodiak again. That's at my friend's house in western Kansas. That's like 8,500, 9,000 pounds.
Come on. Go. Let's go. Right now. Boy.
You hear the carpet ripping?
Yeah.
Let's
Ooh-wee.
go. Let's go.
Yeah, I definitely see the difference in takeoff.
Yeah. Yeah, and you want them to turn around and, bump into it like Hank did in that previous video, but sometimes they won't do it. Kodiak has never done it. He always takes off on his own speed.
Mm-hmm. Is that gentler on their body or the other way better?
This way would be gentler, but you won't see a dog. I don't know. Hank would pound into the weight. I mean, you could pull the trace tight, and he would back up and hit into it. But those harnesses are padded. You know, there's actually pipe insulation on top of the like fuzzy either felt or like sheepskin type material is under that pipe insulation. So they're padded big time. But I mean, you see that dog, you're not encouraging him to slam into the weight. He just did it that way.
Yeah.
200 times in a row. If you did 200 reps, I promise you every single time he would back up and just pound into it. So we don't allow slingshotting. So you can only give the dog a few inches of slack. But when I was training that dog, I got where I would take all the slack out and then he would actually back up and just pound into it. So I learned the right amount of slack to give him where he wouldn't at least back up. Because if he had a little, then he would just take one fast step into it. If he had none, then he would back up all the way to the cart and then just run into it. And he broke a couple of ropes and traces. And again, that's something, if you saw 200 dogs, you'd only see a couple of them do it that way. Most of them, they're going to bump into it, but not just with crazy authority like that.
I think I found the girl. Is her?
Yep, that's Nocturna. So that's a Kodiak daughter. You know, she doesn't look huge compared to those other dogs, but this is an 85-pound bitch.
Yeah, she's a girl.
She is bad to the bone. She has a crazy, crazy nice conformation. She breathes super clean. She's a nice dog. She moves fast. She is crazy nice. And Robert Howells has that dog now. She is legit.
Yes, she is.
But yeah, you know, it would be easy to look at that and think that that's, you know, a 50 or 60-pound dog because you've just seen several, you know, beasts. And she may have been 70 pounds in that video, but, you know, I think she's 4 years old now, and she's, you know, in the mid to high 80s. Yeah, she's had a couple litters of puppies.
Where did those go?
I think he kept one or two that Robert Howells did, but he sold a few of them, and I've seen a few of them on his page where the new owners are posting some of them. I'd like to get one from him next year, probably.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you breed Kodiak fairly often, or?
I have a few times, and I have shipped, you know, semen off him to a few different places, and I have some on ice here in Oklahoma City at a breeding specialist.
So what's his just all-around drive level like?
So Kodiak is pretty content. He's actually the best house dog I've ever had. I can leave him in the house loose for hours at a time, and he's great. He has pretty good protection instincts, and he can be territorial. You know, if he's in the backyard, you're not going to think I should open this gate and walk in here. Like, you're probably not going to get out of your car. If he's
your water meter's not getting red?
No. No, even my friends that are dog people that are familiar with him and stuff, they don't get over by the fence. You know, he can be a little bit of an ass, like barrier aggression. If he's in his kennel and you pull up in the driveway, he's going to be jumping up and slamming into it. But he's super social, you know, but he definitely has high territorial and protection instincts. But he's crazy social. You know, I take him to these shows. Yeah. Well,
a lot of people don't. I do, though.
Well, yeah, and it's not for everyone. You know, not everybody wants a dog that, you know, they can't have a friend come over and, you know, let the dog out and stuff like that. And I can with people that know him. I actually have a groomer that comes to my house whenever I'm not home and grooms my dogs for me. I commute 45 minutes to work and work long days, so it's tough for me to get that done. And there's a mobile groomer out here, rural where I live, and she comes by and takes care of the dogs while I'm gone once a month. But I made sure to be home the first couple of times that she was doing that, for him specifically.
Yeah.
And actually, that my first bulldog, Samson, I had the white one with the like brindle pants and stuff. He was real similar like that. So the first couple of times she came by, I just didn't go to work until she got here. And after, they got handled by her a few times, then they're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And if you act like you're supposed to be there, then dogs will respond accordingly, right?
Right.
You know?
Usually, yes. Mike. That was it. That was weight pool with James Stevenson. I had a good time talking to him. Something that I'm genuinely curious about. Something I'm really looking at. Starting with our dogs, and a lot of good information there. I meant to air this video at this event that we just went to, the IOEBA's Revival of the Ring. It was in Springfield, Missouri, over the weekend. It was a real good time. Just didn't air the video. I anticipated, I guess, a lot longer days, but it was cool. I was happy that the days were short, and we got to actually enjoy some time and some company with some people, meet some people, and like I said, this video was supposed to be part of that. And now we're gearing up for the next event. Come on now, all you oldie people, AB people, everybody, let's be at the Beast. Bring them out. Bring them out. It's going to be a lot of fun. November 1st in Henrico, Virginia. Dory Park. So open to the public. Let's see what we got. We got the Beast, which is the OG, award that's taken every time. There's a Beast of the East, a Beast award given out, which I think is one of the coolest things in the oldie community going on right now. They're gonna have the Freak on the Leash, which is gonna be working dog events, some bite work, things like that. I'm not exactly sure all the specifics on it, but on Sunday nights we sit down with Chris and Gina, and you can ask questions. I ask questions, and we'll get all the information about that as it unfolds. But yeah, any questions about that, send them to me, send them to Chris or Gina, and we'll get them answered. But that's the next thing we're building up for in our oldie community. I just want to tell everybody that watches, I appreciate you. My brother's not with me tonight because I was going to air a video that was already recorded. You know what I mean? But I could easily say for him as well, like, we appreciate you guys, your support, your participation. It's not lost on us that we haven't been doing this for 10, 15 years like some of you guys, but the fact that you guys give us your time and your attention and your support and information and everything like that, it really helps. We want to build this community, and so far so good, but we're ready to make another push. And our next event is going to be the Beast of the East. Excuse me, the Beast 2025. I know it's me. I get the Beast. The Beast. Okay. Like I said, November 1st, Henrico, Virginia. Appreciate everybody watching. Y'all have a good night.